Obviously, you guys are now, I guess, about a month into this training camp. What are your thoughts on how well this team has looked?
This team's seen a lot of changes. There's some guys that have been here for a while and they're gone, but I think we're coming along well, and it's looking really good. It's looking promising. A lot of effort. We're still hammering the same principles, but getting new sticks in there. We're finally, I think, getting closer to the depth that we're searching for.
There's been so much talk about how good this team looks on paper, but from the goaltending perspective, I mean, you're seeing those defensemen, seeing the forwards, the transition players. How good do they look to you?
The guys in the room there, they look great. Yeah, you can have any team on paper. I mean, San Diego had the best team on paper, if I'm not mistaken, last year, and didn't work out for them. So on paper, it means nothing. What I see at our practices and what the coaches have put in the locker room is a lot of promise. The guys are all on the same page. We're all buying in. You know, we're talking to each other, and we're sticking to what we're gonna do. And the back end especially, I can't speak much for the offense there. It's not my part. But the back end there, I think the guys are ready to go. We're all sacrificing things, and we're committed to this. And to win in this league, we know now it's real hard. Anyone could be anyone on a given night. So if we solidify our back end and we establish an identity back there, I think we're getting close to that, and that's what we're going to be.
Head coach Mike Hazen said that a player like yourself, he's noticed you've been more vocal as well, and talking and communicating with your back end, as you mentioned. Do you feel that from yourself? Have you kind of assumed this role where you're starting to maybe be a little bit more even of a leader?
I'd say, yeah, I'm coming out of, I guess, my younger shell, stuck in my ways. I'm a pretty, superstitious guy, and I like to stick to things that I found have worked. And having Riley Hutchcraft come here, I think that he's the massive part of myself kind of opening up. He's exposed me to things that I've never seen. From his perspective, he's a great X and O's guy, and I'm kind of just a tunnel vision when I play. So sitting down with Hutch and him showing me on the iPad and kind of explaining things and how systems are working, that has opened myself up to a whole nother level of the game. And I know the coaches want me to be more vocal, and they're, I'd say, expecting a little bit more out of myself. And I know guys are going to lean on myself a little bit more. I wouldn't say there's any responsibility or any pressure or anything like that, but having Riley come to this team, getting to know him and him exposing me to this I would say, has developed me into that kind of guy that Mike Hazen's talking about.
This is going to be a different season. I mean, unified standings, everybody plays everybody. From your perspective, I mean, what do you think going into a year where the NLL is probably going to have a bit of a different feel from that side of things?
I think it's good for the league. I mean, you get two different extremes there before. You have the West just playing the West, and you don't really know what they're about, and you can't really, same thing as put on paper. You look at a team, and you're like, oh, they're playing well, and then they come to the East, and one team beats the other. I think having this league play each other once, it really does set who the top dogs are and who you got to worry about. And then the game of lacrosse, just changing it up, right? And some guys play better in some atmospheres and some not so much. So when you go to Buffalo or, you go to Calgary or games like that and you get into those arenas and they got a big crowd, it changes. So going into different arenas, even Colorado, a team can make or break through the pressures, and I think it's nice to have the league expand that and play everyone once.
You brought up the X's and O's. How much was your summer coaching in Orangeville helped you with that too?
A massive part, actually. The lacrosse IQ that was on that bench between Rusty Kruger, Phil Sanderson, DJ Cleveley, those guys are same thing, X and O's, and they live, breathe that game. And so being exposed to the change room and seeing their perspective of the game, it's helping myself grow into a player. It's helped myself develop into my later parts of this career, into my, I'd say, prime. So knowing that stuff and what players are thinking and what they're going to do or tendencies and how things can change, mid-game changes and read those kinds of things. I think if I can put them into my game properly and use them to my advantage, that it should benefit myself.
You look back to the end of last season, and it's not the game that you want, but now so far removed from it, are there things that you personally pulled out of that playoff game as maybe things to learn from and get ready for this season?
Yeah, absolutely. There's things you can learn every day, every game, every practice. And if you're not learning, then you're just going to get worse, right? And you're not going to develop yourself. So last year, at the end of that year, obviously they took it to us, and that was a great team, and they showed that throughout the league, and rightfully so. You know, you just got to mature from it, and then just know that feeling inside when you're getting beat and when you're, you know, and you're not the best and you still have a long way to go. You have to take that feeling inside, and then you have to develop, and you have to want it that much more. You have to just, you know, put your effort in, put your drive in, and taking that away from last year and bring it to this year. And every practice matters, every moment. That builds us into the team we want to be, and everyone can kind of build off that. You know, guy like Coates's going to preach that and you know, not let us forget that kind of moment, and we want to bring that into this season and right off the bat.
You brought Coatsy up there, who's been maybe the biggest voices in the loss of Paul Dawson for this defensive end.
So to start, seeing Paulie go, Paulie was one of my closest teammates there in the veteran aspect, and it's upsetting to see him go. And I wish the best of luck. But Coatsy has, you know, stepped up into that role in the loss of Paul, and Coatsy's been a great leader. He's seen lots of teams. He's led a lot of teams. He's been a guy that obviously GMs, coaches, and players look up to and they believe in. And so when he's in that room and he's preaching something, you just stop, listen, and you soak it in. And what he's saying, there's a reason for it, right? And Coatsy's also a guy that doesn't just say something and then expect you. Coatsy says it and then he does it. So to watch a guy, you know, reap what he sows, that's another thing in itself. That's a true leader. So Coatsy, yeah, he's huge for ourselves, and there's like myself and a lot of guys that are developing, there's a lot to be expected out of him, and he's showing that, and he's leading us younger guys into that path.
Obviously, it's preseason, but the last time the Riptide were here was the second longest game in NLL history. Just, you ready for a long night tonight?
Hopefully, it's not a long night, but that's what practices are for, right? And so when you have your 2-hour practice, and then you give it an extra push after that, and it prepares you for moments like that, because at some point in your career, maybe not going to go for the longest game, but you're going to be pushed a little extra past the 60, and then you have to be ready for that kind of stuff.